Hey, welcome to More Than Social Work with Nikki Sanders here on YouTube. Thanks for joining me. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Today we are going to talk about how to leave work at work. How to leave work at work. Now, let me say, I have not always done the best job of leaving work at work, and I understand fully that this is easier said than done. But the number one thing that you need to do if you want to leave work at work is believe that you can leave work at work. It starts with belief. You have to believe that you can't do everything. You can't do everything for everyone. You can't do everything for everyone all the time. You get to be an employee or worker and a whole human outside of work. So your belief has to be, I deserve to disconnect and leave work at work. Your identity as a human cannot be tied to your occupation, to your work, to your job title. You also have to believe that you can leave work at work because you do a good job while you're at work, and you get to come back the next day and do a good job. You have to believe that you are not a savior, and your job is not to try to save anybody. You can help people participate in their own rescue, but you are not a savior. And it's much easier to leave work at work when you realize that you are not there as a savior. You also have to believe that you are not supposed to do more than you are contracted to do, right? So all of the wonderful ideas that you have, all of the things that you're great at, wonderful, fine, lovely. But do your job well, and don't hold yourself to a higher standard or such a high standard. Not say hold yourself to a high standard, but don't hold yourself to such a high standard that you set up unrealistic expectations for yourself and you're unable to detach from the work that you're doing. You have to believe that you can leave work at work. You're not a hospital. You're not an emergency room or an emergency center. You're not a 24-hour crisis line. You are a human being who has a life outside of work. So please believe that you get to leave work at work. There are people coming, but I'm going to keep talking. So the first thing you need to have is a belief that you can leave work at work. The second thing that you need to have are boundaries. Boundaries that say, here's the time I'm going to get to work. Here's the time I'm going to take lunch. Here's the time that I'm going to go home. Now, there's flexibility there, of course. Things happen, crises happen, all of those things. When I worked in residential, the thing that I hated is that if my relief was late, I couldn't go home until they showed up. So I recognize that not everybody has a job where they can leave right at their exact time. But when you can leave at your time, you have to leave. So set up your boundaries so you're getting at work when you need to get there, not an hour or two before. Set up your boundaries so that you are taking your lunch and your breaks and not eating at your desk or skipping lunch or eating lunch at 3 o'clock and then running out at 5 o'clock. Make sure that you are prepared to go home when it's time to go home. So belief and boundaries are the two things you need right off the top in order to be able to leave work at work. You need belief, you need boundaries, and you need somebody to back you up. Now, when I talk about somebody to back you up, I mean you need good supervision. If you have a good supervisor, they will process with you all of the things that you feel like you can't let go of, or you can't release, or you have to juggle and do. That's what good supervision is for. And supervision is for the employee, not the person who is doing the supervising. You need to go in with your own agenda. You need to have your own questions. You need to take control of your supervision. And if for some reason you don't have someone in your organization who can provide supervision for you, be willing to get outside supervision. Be willing to get outside supervision. So when I worked as the director of programs with an organization, my direct supervisor was the executive director, who had no direct service experience, no previous nonprofit experience. Their job was to fundraise and bring in money, president and CEO. And so when I started feeling sad, when I realized that I was changing based on the work, I went and got supervision outside. And that supervision was essential in me being able to get myself back on track and then help get my team back on track. So, what are the first three things that you need if you want to leave work at work? The first is the belief that you can leave work at work. The second is the boundaries that you set up. And I'm going to come back to boundaries again later because I just decided that I'm going to do a second video. But boundaries and then backup. Belief, boundaries, backup. And your boundaries also include setting a different workspace. So especially if you're working at home, right? So I have a work phone and a personal phone. If you work at home, do you have your workspace or your office in a separate space? Have you decided that I'm going to turn my phone off, or I'm going to turn my computer off at a certain time of the day? Have you decided it's not coming back on? Listen, I use do not disturb. Have you decided that your boundaries include who you will speak to after a certain time of the day? Do your boundaries include not reading emails late into the night or early into the morning? Do your boundaries include not sending emails late into the night, early into the morning? So, believe that you are a whole human who deserves to have a life outside of work. So believe that you can leave work at work. Set up healthy boundaries. Don't put your job on the line, but also know that if you can't set up boundaries at work, it may be a toxic workplace. And the second is backup. You need someone who's willing to back you up, support you, assist you in setting those boundaries, shifting those beliefs, and actually doing what you need to do to practice quality self-care so that you can be an effective social worker or an effective human services professional. So those are the first three things. I'm going to come back in a second video and give you more things that you can do if you want to leave work at work. All right, this is Nikki Sanders with Nikki Sanders Leadership Consulting. Meet me back here for our next video on More Than Social Work with Nikki Sanders on YouTube. I will see you later. Bye.